Hi, I'm Melissa and I work at 8th Day Farm, and today we're going to make a rainbow salsa with our new fast food bags. So the equipment that you'll need, it's pretty simple, really just a big bowl, a cutting board, a spoon to mix things up, a knife, you can choose either one, and then a can opener just for a can of beans. So everything you need is in the bag. You've got the recipe in there, and then the bag of produce. We'll get that out here in just a minute. We've got a can of black beans, a couple onions, head of garlic, and a little salt and cumin. And then in our bag, we've got lots of tomatoes. We're going to use about 7 to 10. And then we've got cilantro, some beautiful peppers, and hot pepper. The big ones are the sweet peppers. And 2 limes. So that's all you'll need to make a fabulous salsa. Okay, now we're ready to chop up our veggies. So we'll start with the bell peppers. You can just cut right down the middle. Basically, we just have to get these cavities, the seed cavities out. Kind of cut right in a C. Whoops. And then with these, we usually just throw them right in here, the compost. If you have any area where you're living that you have just a little area of dirt, you can start your own composting, and it's really good if you want to start growing your own vegetables. It's just basically putting in old scraps of vegetables or leftover food, as long as it's not meat or sugar or cheese, but any other vegetable or fruit scraps or peels. You can put that in a lidded container just like we have here, and then when it gets full, throw it outside into your compost bin or your area that you're composting, and then it breaks down and you can use that to help grow new vegetables. It just makes really good soil. So you can just see I'm cutting strips and then putting them all together just to make that dicing go faster. If you get a couple little seeds in, that doesn't matter. The different colored peppers have different sweetness levels, so it gives a good variety of taste, and also, again, just a beautiful color. Alright, so we got 2 done that quick. Put that in the bowl. Do our last 2. do the same thing, cut them into strips. Sometimes I get overly ambitious thinking I can cut so many at once, but as long as you can sort of keep them down. Clearly I don't worry about being too precise. See those colors mixing so nice. Now we're going to do our tomatoes. I don't have the sharpest knife in the world, and so sometimes I break those up a little bit right at the end. All right. These are the slicing tomatoes, so kind of the big round ones. And with these, we cut the core right out of the middle. So you just turn it around like that. Pop it out. And again, throw it in your compost. Oh. All right, we'll cut these up and then we'll do the Romas. There's really no big tricks. You cut them one way, then cut them the other way, and then I usually end just turning those sides together and cutting a little bit more, just so you don't have any huge chunks. I'm gonna throw this in. Usually this is where the board gets kind of messy with all that juice. I'll quick do this last one then. These long ones are the Roma tomatoes. They have a tiny little core at the end, but honestly, I usually don't even cut that out just to save time. Usually I slice it down halfway, turn it and slice it halfway, and then just cut little pieces like that. You can see that the Romas are less juicy than the slicing tomatoes, so they don't make quite as much of a mess on the board. nicely. All right, we're going to start with our limes. We can just cut them halfway and then cut each of those into half. And then you can just squirt that in there. Oops. Lime gives it good flavor, but it also helps decrease a little bit of the heat of jalapeno, which I always appreciate. I like a little bit of spice, but not too much, and so it's kind of the perfect blend of flavors to get spicy, but not too intense heat. Now the cilantro, we did not rinse it off in the field before we put it in the bag, because otherwise it wilts it. And so when you get your bag and you start preparing your salsa, you're going to want to rinse your cilantro off. You can even squeeze a little bit here. And the way I usually do it is I kind of hold it by the stems, and then I take the knife and I just go down and try and get some of the leaves off that way. And then with that, just chop it up. Now my husband and I have learned as farmers, our CSA members, there's quite a range of feelings with cilantro. Either people hate it or they love it. And so we would just encourage you. Neither Jeff or I grew up eating cilantro, and we now just love it. It has a really good taste to it, and it just offers a lot of flavor to a dish. And so we put this on the recipe as optional if you'd like to put it in or not. But we would, if you haven't had cilantro before, or even if it's been a while, we would encourage you just to try it and put it in and see what you think. You can always leave it out if you decide you don't care for it, but again, this is just a good chance to try something new. So it gets nice and messy. There's no really clean way to do that. In your bag, you'll have a head of garlic. This whole thing is the head. We're going to use 2 cloves, so just 2 of these little sections. You can kind of see where it's indented, and just cut around there. And then it kind of pops out. This is hard neck garlic, so it might look a little bit different than the kind you get at the store. This tip here is very hard. That shows that. And then you're just gonna, I usually cut a little section off the end, and it helps the peeling go faster. All right, so once you get all those little skins off, and then you can just chop it up. Whoops. You don't have to be too precise. Any size will do. I usually cut them up a little bit smaller. Alright, and then you're able to store, since we only needed 2 cloves, you can store the rest of this in a dark, dry place. So that could be a cupboard. It doesn't have to be in the refrigerator. It's best just to keep it in a cupboard. Now onto our onions. You're going to have either 1 or 2 in your bag, depending on the size. If we have a large one, you'll get 1. Otherwise, a few smaller ones, you'll get 2. Some people are really sensitive to onions, and so that is the gas that they release can bring on tears. And so there's a couple different ways we'll show you to peel an onion. First, we're just going to get the skin off. Just kind of grab that and peel it back. We'll do both of those, and then I'll show you a couple options. If you get a little layer of the onion with it, that's okay too. Just get that off the best you can. All right. This first onion will show how to cut it up if you are sensitive to the gases that they release and you want to do it without tears. What you're going to do is kind of core it right around the base, the bottom of it, and you're going to try and take that bulb right out, about 1/3 of the way down the onion. And then you're going to see it kind of comes as a little rectangle there, or a little triangle, and you can just get rid of that, and that should help with cutting that up. And just top to bottom, turn it and go that way. All right, now we'll do our other one. So with this one, again, we cut off that other side. You can also just cut off the bottom like that and just go right down. Sometimes it kind of falls apart, but as you can see, don't have to be so precise as long as it gets cut. And you're done. Now we're going to add the jalapeno. If you are not a fan of spice, you don't have to add this. It can be optional. If you love spice, feel free to add more. Just in the range of hot peppers, jalapeno is one of the milder hot peppers. You can see that this one is pretty much all green with just a couple checkered marks. This one has a lot more checkered marks. It's you can see the little white lines. That means that it's been on the pepper plant longer, and it actually increases its heat and spice. So we're going to use one that's not quite as spicy. The main thing with a jalapeno is that, or any hot pepper, is that you just don't want to touch the seeds inside, because that's what will burn your hands a little bit. I put gloves on. You don't really have to wear gloves. I'll show you how to cut it up if you don't have gloves. You basically are just going to be holding it right at the tip and cutting the sides here. So again, like we said, you don't want to touch the seeds. Also, you don't want to touch the interior because it was right up next to the seeds. And then you can just throw that in the compost. So usually what we'll do is just use a fork. You can kind of get the rest of those seeds out of there. Push them off to the side. And you're going to want to make sure that you wash your cutting board and your counter space and everything really good after. And just make sure too not to touch your eyes because it will sting a bit. But they do offer really good spice and really good flavor to the dish, so that's why we like to include them. With the sweet peppers, the bell peppers, we cut, you know, pretty generous, pretty big dices. But with a hot pepper, we usually cut smaller pieces because you usually don't want a huge bite of a hot pepper, but just enough to give it that good spice. So I usually just dice them up a little bit finer. Now we're going to rinse our beans off. We like the black beans in our salsa dish because it adds some good protein. When you open up a can, you're always going to want to rinse it because there's a lot of sodium that's in there. So usually I'll kind of take the lid, cover it a little bit. If you have a strainer, you can do that. But if not, you might lose a few. But kind of rinse it so that you get some of that sodium off. All right, and then we'll add that. And then the last thing was our salt and our cumin. So we can kind of sprinkle that on and mix that up. You can see that this salsa lives up to its name. It's quite a myriad of colors, rainbow salsa. That the produce came in and the container are both biodegradable and compostable, so you can throw that right in the compost. When you get your bag of your items, you can leave it out on the counter at room temperature. The only thing from the bag that needs to go in the refrigerator would be the cilantro if you don't make it up right away. After you've made up your salsa, again, it's going to be best if you eat it right away, but if you have some left over, you can put it in the fridge for the next day or two. There's a lot of different ways that you can eat the salsa, one being, of course, with tortilla chips. We usually run down the street to Mi Favorita and pick up some non-GMO tortilla chips. So that's one good option. And then another one, you could eat it in wraps. You could eat it over rice with tamales or even with ramen noodles, minus the seasoning pack with the ramen noodles. A couple other healthier options would be on a salad. You could do it on a bed of fresh sweet corn. If you boil some sweet corn and cut it off the cob, and then put some salsa over that. Or you could also do it with eggs. We made a breakfast burrito the other day that was really good. with some salsa and some scrambled eggs and a little cheese. So there's lots of variety of ways that you could eat it, and we hope that you enjoy it very much.